tell us, what's the problem with the roads?
Well, that's a big question. I work as a general pediatrician most of my life, and I tell people that there are two things that are important for young people: to be safe and to be happy. And one of the most important places to be safe is on the roads. And as we're all aware, car crashes have taken too many young lives over the years, and unfortunately, that still continues to be the case.
So what needs to change? What do we do about this?
Asking somebody how to fix an issue where there's human nature involved is always a challenge. People develop their habits, and one of the things that happens is that people will often have a feeling like, we're fine, we'll be okay, it's just a short distance, it's just this once that I'm doing it, I don't usually do this, I'll be fine this time. And really having those good safety habits that you do, whether it's being buckled or restrained appropriately, following the rules of the road, and being sober, of course, when you're driving. These are the age-old issues. Speed, sobriety, and seatbelts.
You're in Massachusetts. Do you feel like the state is doing enough in terms of traffic enforcement and the laws that are on the books right now? Is there something the legislature could do? What would you like to see from us in terms of the state's response?
Sure. Legislators have, as every state gets a report card from the powers that be about how they're doing in terms of traffic safety. The areas that Massachusetts really could help, and the sort of cardinal things that safety advocates like myself have been asking for years are, making sure that the seatbelt law is one that can be enforced just as a seatbelt law, and not needing to have another infraction to be pulled over, not for punitive reasons, but because we know that statistically that makes more people buckle up and keeps them safer. Most states, including Massachusetts, has a good booster seat law. The child, the toddler car seat laws in Massachusetts and others, we've been trying this session to get updated so that pediatricians want children to be rear facing in cars until they're at least 2 years old, if not longer. And updating legislation would really help with that, because this is the kind of legislation that's an educational tool. It's the kind of thing where people look to the law to say, what is the best way to keep my child safe? Because everyone wants to keep their children safe. We live in an age where we have so many new residents in our states, and and some of them don't come from a culture of safety, and so having on the books, so to speak, something that says this is what is the safest practice for your child really does make a difference when it comes to keeping kids safe.
As a pediatrician, what are you seeing in terms of injuries? What's your greatest concern in terms of what you're seeing firsthand, injuries to children and things like that?
Right. The biggest concern is always the teenager, early 20-something with a high risk crash, whether it's, as I say, whether it's substance use, not being belted, or driving too fast. I work in a small town, and as any of us know that live in small towns, there's no statistics when it comes to what these things. There's only actual people. unfortunately, my kids are in their 20s, and they lost friends, in crashes, and I can tell you the effect that it has, obviously on the families but on the entire town is just devastating. And so the teenagers are clearly the highest risk, and the young 20-somethings. This time of year, you have people coming home from college for periods of time, and remembering that you're not at the dorm anymore. You gotta have somebody that is sober and that can drive. Just the very basic things, but as even doing the little things can be a challenge at times, but they're so important.
Do you think parents should be concerned about their child getting behind the wheel and driving when they become of age and old enough to do so? Or maybe it's not necessarily them driving, but getting in the car with friends once they're old enough to drive? Is that something that you think?
I haven't met too many parents that weren't concerned about their teenagers when they started to drive. Fortunately, the junior operator laws that have been put in place really do make a difference. Not having the distractions of your friends when you're first learning to drive, the distraction of a phone at any time, not driving high. Unfortunately, the somewhat normalization of the use of marijuana has led to an increase in driving while impaired, and the ability to focus at those times just is not the same. When it comes to those junior operator laws, I think the important thing is that parents understand that they are worth enforcing with their teenagers, because they do work. They help kids get safer. And, I explain to teenagers like a video game. The more you play it, the better you get at it. And just like a video game, there's different levels of driving. There's driving this time of year when it's getting dark early and there's wet leaves on the road, and driving on windy roads, there's city and highway, and all the different factors. Somebody's trash barrel blowing across the street, or a young child, God forbid, when you're not paying attention. There are all these things that those of us who have been driving for a long time have just automatically processed without even realizing that new drivers, they're still using that frontal part of their brain, which many people know is not quite there yet when you're 16 or 18 or even 21.
From an enforcement standpoint, do you feel that specifically in Massachusetts, where you are, that the penalties are stiff enough in terms of the laws regarding operating under the influence? You talk about impairment being a concern. Do you think the penalties are stiff enough in terms of being able to send a message to try and prevent this? Well,
of course, it depends on what kind of legislation you're speaking about. I think I would say that we want to encourage good behavior, but we also do want to have a system where people who do not do the right thing have a consequence that will be a significant disincentive. And as you know, the impact of operating under the influence when it involves another person's life it couldn't be bigger. And so there has to be enough teeth and enough ability of the legal system to actually follow through on what the intentions of the legislation are to make it worthwhile. And so things like ignition systems, and we have so much technology available to us right now. It only makes sense to use that in a way that will help keep us safe, especially for people who have not followed what they need to do in the past.
What's your message to somebody that's going to see this interview and then get out and go for a drive to get themselves from point A to point B? What's the number one thing you want them to be thinking about when they get in the car?
There's so much anxiety in our society. There's so many things that people worry about, and so many things that people are pushed to worry about. I think it's just the reminder that things can happen, that, nobody thinks that this day is the one where they're going to have that crash. Whether it's wearing a life jacket in a boat. I always say the ocean doesn't care, how old you are, wearing a helmet on a bike or a skateboard, the asphalt doesn't care how old you are. The laws of physics, they just operate, right? They don't have emotions. And so we just have to get by our own emotions and that feeling like I can get away with it this once, and just do the right thing. And, we never think about the crashes that don't happen or the other bad things that don't happen because we did the safe thing. We only know about the bad things that happen because we didn't do the safe thing. And it's really easy to lose track of those when day after day is safe. And it only ever takes once to, change people's lives in a way that they never want to have changed.
Mm-hmm. Anything else you'd like to add today?
Just to wish everybody a very safe holidays. It's a time of year where there's so much potential for joy, and we just want to keep it that way and let everyone have the safe, good times with their families that they deserve to have.